In a remote corner of the South China Sea, a decaying warship marks one of the most unusual and enduring flashpoints between the Philippines and China. The vessel, the BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting relic deliberately run aground more than 2 decades ago by the Philippine Navy, was never meant to be a conventional outpost. Yet, today it symbolizes Manila's sovereign claims in the West Philippine Sea and sits at the center of a bitter confrontation that has taken a disturbing turn. The BRP Sierra Madre is not a purpose-built base, but a World War II-era landing ship that the Philippine government deliberately grounded on Second Thomas Shoal in 1999 to assert its claim over the submerged reef. Since then, a small contingent of Philippine Marines and sailors has lived aboard the battered vessel, enduring cramped quarters and challenging conditions to maintain Manila's physical presence in disputed waters claimed by Beijing. Strategically located about 105 nautical miles off the Philippine Isle and of Palawan, the shoal lies inside the Philippines' 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone under the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. A 2016 arbitral tribunal in The Hague confirmed Manila's rights there and rejected China's sweeping 9-line claim over most of the South China Sea, a claim Beijing still refuses to recognize. From the deck of the Sierra Madre, provisions must be delivered regularly, fresh crews rotated, and the tiny contingent sustained. For years, such operations were fraught with tense confrontations. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels have repeatedly shadowed, blocked, harassed or directly confronted Philippine vessels en route to the shore, at times firing water cannons, dangerously maneuvering, and contributing to violent episodes. In early 2026, Manila shocked regional observers by accusing Chinese fishing boats and crews of deliberately poisoning the waters around the shoal. Philippine officials disclosed that low plastic bottles collected from small wooden sampans operating near the Sierra Madre were tested in laboratories and found to contain cyanide, a highly toxic compound. We wish to underscore that the use of cyanide on Ayungin Shoal is a form of sabotage that seeks to kill local fish populations, depriving Navy personnel of a vital food source, said Cornelio Valencia, spokesperson for the Philippine National Security Council, using the Philippines' name for the feature. It ultimately compromises the stability of the grounded warship and threatens the marine environment supporting it. Filipino troops have reported at least 10 such bottles seized from sampans, launched from larger Chinese fishing vessels in 2025 and early 2026, after observing the boats operating in the vicinity of Sierra Madre. Manila characterizes these acts as intentional, harmful, and part of a broader pattern of what analysts call gray zone tactics, measures designed to inflict damage or exert pressure with triggering open conflict. Beijing categorically dismissed the allegations. A spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs called Manila's claims a stunt and accused the Philippines of illegally harassing Chinese fishing vessels and seizing fishermen's supplies. The Chinese side insisted there was no credibility whatsoever to the poisoning narrative. Cyanide is not only deadly to fish, it also poses serious risks to coral reefs and marine ecosystems that sustain fisheries and protect the structural integrity of underwater features. The death of local fish populations would affect not only the food supply for the Sierra Madre's crew, but also weaken the shoal's ecology, potentially destabilizing coral and reducing its ability to support the grounded vessel itself. While Philippine officials say no Marines have tested positive for cyanide poisoning, the very presence of the toxin in these waters raises grave concerns. Analysts warn that harm to the reef could be used politically by Beijing to push narratives about environmental degradation and shift blame onto Manila, even as tensions intensify in the contested waters. The cyanide accusations are the latest in a series of increasingly perilous encounters between Philippine and Chinese forces. In June 2024, a confrontation between Chinese Coast Guard personnel and Philippine vessels escalated into a violent clash, with Chinese crew using knives, sticks, and axes against Filipino sailors. By December 2025, an exchange resulted in a Philippine sailor losing a finger during close-quarter skirmishes. Chinese vessels have repeatedly used water cannons against Philippine supply of fishing boats in the area. Military aircraft from both sides have engaged in provocative maneuvers near Sabina Shoal and adjacent contested waters. Each incident, whether physical clash or chemical allegation, tests the resolve of Manila's leadership and raises the question of how much pressure the Philippines can withstand or seeking new diplomatic or defensive measures. Despite the tensions, Manila and Beijing have maintained avenues of dialogue. In early 2026, officials from both countries reportedly held high-level talks aimed at de-escalation, including discussions on confidence-building measures and limited Coast Guard communication channels. Manila's foreign ministry emphasized that these talks do not include cooperation in sensitive operational areas, such as joint patrols near contested features. On the Philippine side, repeated resupply missions to the Sierra Madre continue, often escorted by the Philippine Coast Guard. These missions, while routine in intention, are often shadowed by Chinese vessels and may require cautious navigation or alternative routes. Manila has held firm that it will not back down from its sovereign claims or abandon its soldiers stationed at the shoal. The contest over Second Thomas Shoal and the broader South China Sea is about far more than a rusty warship or poison. De-fish, the South China Sea sees over $3 trillion in global trade annually, and its waters are rich in fisheries, hydrocarbons, and mineral resources. Multiple nations, including Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan, have competing claims that intersect with China's expansive assertions. For Manila, the Sierra Madre is tangible proof of sovereignty. Its continued presence underscores a commitment to uphold Philippine rights under international law, even in the face of mounting pressure and aggressive tactics. For Beijing, dominance over the South China Sea, regardless of legal rulings, remains a core strategic objective as it seeks secure trade routes and strategic depth. The use of hazardous substances like cyanide, intentional or otherwise, in disputed waters has introduced a wordy, volatile dispute, whether characterized as sabotage, environmental degradation, or harmful fishing practices. These allegations escalate mistrust and compel both sides. Inward. As analysts note, small actions in the South China Sea often have large consequences. A few bottles of cyanide may seem minor in isolation, but in a region fraught with overlapping claims, national pride, and strategic stakes, even minor sparks can ignite larger confrontations. For the Marines aboard the BRP Sierra Madre, the challenges remain immediate: secure food, maintain equipment, endure isolation, and watch day after day as larger forces joust for dominance over their waters. For Manila and Beijing, the strategic implications extend well beyond these remote coral atolls, influencing alliances, regional security architectures, and the future of one of the world's most critical sea lanes.